In a world where people have powers, a man named Eclipso leaves a club after a performance. As he heads home, he suddenly gets attacked by a stranger who knocks him out. Shortly after, Eclipso wakes up and sees himself strapped to a bed in a lab. As he wonders where he is, he looks to his side and sees another person whose blood has been drained and is now dying. Eclipso looks extremely scared, and even though he calls for help, no one answers him. The next day, a detective named Maro wakes up and immediately prepares his breakfast. While he's eating, he watches a video of a YouTube streamer who is making an announcement about a voting competition for the best superheroes in the city. Maro doesn't seem to be interested in this, but as he keeps watching, he gets a call from his boss, Chairmont, who informs him about a new criminal case. Maro immediately leaves the house and heads to the scene of the crime, where a club was burned to the ground by some young people who got angry after they weren't allowed in.
Ils sont pas pressés, les mecs, hein?
As he arrives, he sees another detective named Schultzman and asks for an update on the case. Schultzman looks confused as to who he is, but as he mentions that he's a cop, she informs him that the fire led to some injuries. She adds that she doesn't think the fire was caused by a flamethrower because there are signs that someone used their superpowers. Maro thanks her for the update and says she can leave already since he's now around. Schultzman doesn't get why he's sending her away, but she eventually leaves the scene while he continues to ascertain the cause of the fire. Shortly after, Maro returns to the police department and goes to see Chairmont. During their meeting, Chairmont complains about Moreau's frequent lateness to work. He adds that since Maro stopped working as a liaison officer for a superhero group named Pack Royal, his record has been disappointing at work. Maro tries to defend himself by saying he's only going through a rough patch, but Chairmont thinks he has so far been useless in the super criminality cases he has been assigned.
Mais on va pas se mentir, hein.
Before Maro says anything else, Chairmont mentions that he now wants his officer to work with a new detective. As Maro wonders what he's talking about, Schultzman walks in, and Chairmont says she'll be his new partner. Maro looks surprised because he already met Schultzman earlier and didn't think she was a highly ranked detective like him. As he wonders why he's now getting a partner, Chairmont says he'll be assigning most of the supercriminality cases to Schultzman, and they have to start working together. He adds that Schultzman will definitely need his experience in catching criminals with superpowers. Maro doesn't think he needs a partner, but Chairmont doesn't care, and he sends him out of his office. After a while, Schultzman also leaves Chairmont's office and informs Maro about a hostage situation in a high school. Maro immediately leaves the police department with her, and they start coordinating the best way to take control of the situation.
On est prêt dans 5 minutes.
Moreau?
Meanwhile, inside the school, a girl named Lily runs away and hides from a student who is trying to burn down the place and kill his bullies. In her hiding spot, Lily starts to feel strange and suddenly starts shooting lightning sparks out of her eyes. This scares her, so she runs into the restroom to hide so that no one will see her. Interestingly, there's already a boy named Rudy inside there, and he looks shocked to see someone with powers. Elsewhere, Moreau eventually goes down alone to try to convince the boy with powers not to kill his bullies. Schultzman is shocked by this, but she doesn't interfere in what he's trying to do. After Moreau manages to convince the boy to drop his hands, he grabs it and gets him arrested. The cops then find 2 strange pills on the floor, and the forensics team takes a look at them. Shortly after, Schultzman tells Moreau that the boy has denied being responsible for the fire at the club. She adds that he said he bought the pills to help him get powers which he planned to use on his bullies. Schultzman doesn't think he told her the truth, but Moreau says he likely just freaked out and didn't think about what he was doing.
Vite les traces de brûlure concordent, et puis...
He eventually says they need to leave, but as they enter the car, he tells Schultzman to wait while he watches Lily meet her mom, Alicia, just outside the school. After Alicia checks that her daughter is fine, they head home together, and Moreau finally tells Schultzman to drive away from the scene. As they get to a corner with a supermarket, Moreau tells her to drop him off. Schultzman looks confused, but as he really gets down from the car, she asks what he wants her to do regarding the case. Moreau then says she's a cop and that she needs to be creative. Schultzman doesn't understand this, but Moreau just walks away and enters the supermarket to get some things. Elsewhere, a boy named Ismael stands in a corner and sells some of the power pills to a few customers, who then leave to start showcasing their powers in different places. Meanwhile, Maro finally finishes his shopping and heads to the house of a man named Monte Carlo. As he gets there, he doesn't initially see Monte Carlo and starts wondering what he's already up to. After looking around, Maro sees Monte Carlo staring into a mirror and admiring his new mask while trying to act like a superhero. Maro finds this funny, and as he asks Monte Carlo what he's doing, he says he's just testing out his new mask, which still needs a few tweaks. Shortly after, Monte Carlo says he just found out that Maro has a new partner. He adds that he already went through her file, and she looks like someone he'd like to work with. Maro doesn't say anything, and he just leaves to help Monte Carlo clean his house and prepare his food. After he's done, he asks Monte Carlo if he knows how he can identify someone by his powers. Monte Carlo looks happy to see that Maro needs his help, and he says there's a way he can find out who is likely behind the fire at the club.
42 ans. Quelques séjours en prison pour voie de fait.
He then sits at his desk and goes through a catalog of people with superpowers. Following this, he finds out that the only person with fire powers is a man named Bracero, who has been in and out of prison for petty crimes. Maro thanks Monte Carlo for this information and says he needs to leave. As he's about to head out, Monte Carlo uses his super speed to reach the door to open it for Maro. He looks pretty rusty, and Maro quickly saves him from falling. Maro then asks if Monte Carlo has been using his medication, but he says that his inability to use his powers well has nothing to do with it. Maro still tells him to use it because it will help him, and Monte Carlo says he will. Elsewhere, Rudy heads over to a secret lab and requests to see his boss, Naja. After he's finally allowed into Naja's office, Naja asks why Rudy was demanding to see him, and he says he has good and bad news regarding their business.
Bonne ou mauvaise nouvelle?
Meanwhile, another fire case is reported on the news, with the culprit believed to be someone who has powers. Shortly after, Chairmont holds a meeting with his detectives to talk about the case and how the teen they caught at the school has failed to tell them where he got the pills. He also plays a video footage from outside the club, which shows the 5 people who got injured in the fire. As Chairmont says they need to find anyone with such powers, Maro interrupts him and says that the suspect is likely Bracero. Chairmont asks why he's just mentioning it, but Maro says he just found out too. Chairmont then asks if Bracero has any kids, and Maro says he doesn't, and that the boy from the school has no connection with him. Following this, Chairmont tells his detectives to start working on finding Bracero to see what he knows about the recent fire cases. As they leave Chairmont's office, Schultzman sounds pissed that Maro didn't share information about Bracero with her. She also says she doesn't get why he keeps treating her like his driver or assistant, even though she's his partner. Maro says he only just found out, but before he can say anything else, he gets interrupted by a call from Monte Carlo.
Il avait rejoint son programme de réinsertion à la con.
After he answers it, Monte Carlo mentions that he just found out that Bracero used to go to a rehab program organized by a superhero named Kalista. Maro thanks him for this information and leaves the office to find Kalista. Meanwhile, at Kalista's place, she stops a fight between 2 of the kids in her program. As she also dismisses all the kids, her pupils suddenly widen, and she sees a vision from the future where a boy named Alex receives a beating from someone he owes money. Kalista looks shocked by this, so she goes to meet Alex to ask if he owes anyone money. Alex says she doesn't have to worry about him, but Kalista sounds pissed that he keeps getting himself in trouble. She then gives him some money to pay his debt so that he won't get beaten up on his way home. Alex doesn't initially accept it, but Kalista forces him to take it.
J'ai pas le temps, allez.
Merci.
Shortly after, Maro arrives at the facility, and Kalista looks shocked to see him. She then asks how he's doing, and he says he's fine. She also asks about Monte Carlo, and Maro says she needs to go and see him. Kalista doesn't respond to this, and Maro then asks if she knows Bracero. She says she helped him a long time ago after he left prison, but Maro mentions that he hasn't been able to find him. Kalista doesn't know how this concerns her, and as Maro asks if she won't help him, she just leaves him alone. Shortly after, Maro and Schultzman are informed about a body that could be linked to the case. As they get to the coroner's office, he tells them that the body was brought to him after it was involved in an accident. He adds that after carrying out some tests, he found out that the toxicology report matched the one from the pills they sent to the lab. Schultzman asks if it means that the dead person had the drug in his blood, but the coroner mentions that the blood is the drug.
Pour fabriquer le produit, vous noterez les points de ponction ici.
Maro and Schultzman are shocked by this, but the coroner adds that the dead man's blood was drained to make the drug. As Maro takes a closer look at the body, he notices that the person's tattoo is similar to the one Bracero has. Since this only means that the dead person is Bracero, Maro and Schultzman leave the coroner's office to start an investigation into his death. After questioning a few people who knew Bracero, the detectives don't get any information that could lead them to find whoever is responsible for making the drugs. Elsewhere, Rudy goes to the school library and sits next to Lily. He then asks if she's enjoying her classes, and Lily says she is. However, she adds that she has a problem with people thinking she's weird. Rudy tells her not to worry about this, and he also says she can always look for him around the school if she needs help. He also gives her a number she can call, and as Lily asks who she'll be calling, Rudy mentions that it's someone who won't think she's weird. Later that night, while the detectives are still trying to work on the case, Schultzman looks really tired and sleepy, so Maro encourages her to leave and get some rest. After she heads out, Maro looks at the pictures from the club's footage and notices that there were 6 people in front of the club after the fire started. Since only 5 people were found injured, Maro calls Schultzman to confirm if there was anyone else at the scene. Schultzman says there were only 5 injured people, and Maro mentions that the last person likely escaped because he was the one who started the fire. The next day, Maro and Schultzman get a call from a doctor who informs them that she has a patient named Amin who came in with burn injuries a couple of days ago. After they meet Amin for questioning, he denies being the one in the footage and says he never went to the club. However, as Schultzman threatens him, he confesses and says he bought the power pill from Ismail.
Ismail.
Elsewhere, Naja sounds pissed and says he's disappointed in his guards for not noticing that some of his pills have gone missing. As he asks where Ismail is, none of them seems to know, and Naja says he's the one who definitely stole the drugs. Naja also commends Rudy for bringing his attention to the missing pills. He then tells his men to find Ismail and bring him to the lab. As they leave, Naja asks Rudy how things are going with Lily, and he says that everything is going smoothly. He adds that Naja doesn't have to worry about it, but his boss gets angry and says he'll do whatever he wants. After Rudy leaves, Naja uses one of the pills and goes outside to angrily shoot fire out of his hands. His boys see this and they realize that he's very angry. Shortly after, Ismail arrives home and sees that Naja's men are already waiting for him. As he tries to run away, Maro and Schultzman show up at the building and tell him to stop. Ismail doesn't do this, and he runs outside and hides inside a nearby store. Maro eventually finds his hiding spot, and before Ismail uses his powers on him, the detective stops him and takes him into custody. Meanwhile, 2 boys at Kalista's facility, Kareem and Vincent, invite Alex to join them in trying out some power pills they're about to collect for free. Alex doesn't seem interested, but as the boys keep convincing him, Kalista sees them and asks what's happening. They say it's nothing, and Kalista tells them to join the rest of the group. Elsewhere, Schultzman and Maro struggle to get Ismail to reveal anything about the pills and his supplier. Even though Schultzman looks worried, Maro suggests going out to get food for both of them because eating helps him think better. Schultzman finds this funny, but she says that Maro can also get something for her. As he gets to the restaurant, Monte Carlo calls him to ask if there's really a drug that gives superpowers. Maro says there is, and Monte Carlo mentions that he can't believe people would even want to find artificial ways to get powers. Maro doesn't seem interested in this conversation, but as he's about to end the call, Monte Carlo says he just found something that can help the investigation. Maro asks what it is, and Monte Carlo mentions that he just discovered that someone else named Eclipso has been missing missing. He adds that Eclipso also has superpowers, which he uses to blind people. As he keeps talking about how Eclipso's blood might have gotten drained like Bracero, Maro hears a loud explosion and a series of gunshots. He then heads out to see that it's coming from the police department. Maro doesn't know what's going on, but he still walks in and sees an injured cop on the floor. As he tries to help the man and asks what's happening, Maro notices that the man is blind. This leaves him shocked, but as he sees another cop with the same problem, he realizes that someone is using Eclipso's powers. Maro keeps moving around and suddenly hears Schultzman struggling with the bad guys. As he runs upstairs to help her, he sees the bad guys making her blind, but when the boys notice that he's around, they run away. Unfortunately, Schultzman goes blind, and while trying to understand what's happening, she trips herself. As she's about to fall off the top floor, Maro quickly runs to help her, but he's unable to grab her. Interestingly, his hand still touches her, and it triggers his powers to help her float in midair before she lands badly on the ground. Maro looks shocked by this, and as he goes down, he looks amazed to see Schultzman floating in air. He then brings her down and tells her that she'll be okay after the blindness wears off. Ismail sees everything that happened, and he looks shocked before he runs away from the police department. Elsewhere, Kalista sees Alex alone in the changing room and asks where Karim and Vincent went. Alex says he's not going to snitch on them, but as Kalista threatens to ban him from coming to her facility, he mentions that they went to meet someone who wants to give them a power pill. Kalista immediately heads out, and after a while she finds their bikes. As she touches it, she sees a vision of the boys dying after taking the pills. This scares her, so she starts looking for them. Unfortunately, the boys take the pills from one of Naja's agents, and it appears to be too strong for them. As they fall to their death, Naja's agent then calls him to report that they'll have to review the dosage because the trial didn't go well. After he leaves the scene, Kalista arrives and sees the boys already dead. Much later, Moreau sits on the roof of the police department, and Schultzman goes to meet him there. After they sit together, she asks what happened earlier, and Moreau pretends like he doesn't know what she's talking about. As he asks what she means, Schultzman asks if there's anything she needs to know, but Moreau doesn't say anything.
Il y a quelque chose que je dois savoir?
Elsewhere, Ismael is taken to meet Naja, who sounds pissed and complains about being robbed. Ismael tries to plead for his innocence, but Naja tells his men to get rid of him. As they're taking him away, Ismael says he found someone with the ability to float midair. He adds that it's a detective named Moreau, but Naja still seems pissed at him, and he kills Ismael by himself. Rudy and the other guys are shocked, but there's nothing they can do. Naja then tells Rudy to find Moreau and bring him to the lab. The next day, Alice comes to the police department to report that Lily has gone missing. Moreau then tells Schultzman to take her statement while he goes to Alice's apartment to see what he can find. Meanwhile, Lily is seen at Naja's lab, and it turns out that he's now trying to take her powers. Elsewhere, Moreau arrives at Alice's apartment and notices that someone is already inside. As he brings out his gun and moves around, he sees that it's Kalista. He looks surprised and says he doesn't believe she now wants to help after things have gotten worse. Kalista says they already killed 2 of the kids at her facility, and from what happened to them, she knew it was Lily's powers that had been extracted. As she says they need to find Lily, Moreau says he doesn't need her help and that she should leave. Kalista is shocked by this, but she agrees to leave. After Moreau scatters the things inside Lily's room, he finds the phone number Rudy gave her. As he tries to find out whose number it is, Schultzman calls Moreau to inform him that she's already on her way to Alice's apartment to help him out. Moreau doesn't answer her call, but Schultzman still heads to the place. As she drives into the parking lot, Kalista sees her and gets a vision of Schultzman getting killed as soon as she gets to Alice's apartment building, so she runs after her. Unfortunately, Moreau gets attacked inside the apartment, and he's injected with a sedative. As he goes unconscious, the men take him out of the building, and Kalista and Schultzman see them from inside the car they're hiding in. Schultzman thinks they need to stop the bad guys already, but as Kalista gets a vision of Moreau using his powers inside the van, she tells his partner to wait. Just as the van is about to leave the parking lot, Moreau uses his powers to squeeze it and prevent it from moving. Kalista then tells Schultzman learn that it's time to help Maro. As they take on the bad guys, Rudy realizes that Maro is responsible for what's happening to the van, so he shoots him repeatedly. This causes the van to get back to normal, and Maro is kicked off the back. As the other guys also beat Kalista and Schultzman, they're able to leave the scene with the van. Kalista and Schultzman are shocked to see that Maro has been shot, but as they open his shirt, the bullets suddenly start floating out of his body. Schultzman is shocked by this, but Kalista already knows about his powers, so she just tells his partner to help with carrying him. Kalista then takes him to Monte Carlo's place. While Schultzman is cleaning his wounds, she sees a picture of the Pack Royal superhero group on a table. After she goes out to meet Kalista and Monte Carlo, Schultzman asks if they're all part of the same group. Kalista then explains that she, Monte Carlo, and another hero named Gigaman were the members of Pack Royal. She adds that Gigaman saw Maro's potential after he used his powers for the first time against a bad guy. Since he could be useful to them, they recruited him and went to Chairmont to request for Maro to be their liaison officer. Even though Chairmont didn't know about Maro's powers, he agreed instantly because he liked the idea of having someone in his department working with Pack Royal. Unfortunately, things didn't go well in one of their fights where Maro deflected a bullet from hitting Gigaman. The bullet eventually hit a gas tank, which caused an explosion that led to Gigaman's death. Kalista says that Maro has always blamed himself for it, and it's why they stopped being superheroes. Schultzman then asks how they know Lily, and Kalista says that she's Gigaman's daughter. Following this, Schultzman tells Kalista and Monte Carlo that she found a paper with a phone number inside Maro's pocket. After tracing the phone number, Monte Carlo finds out that it's linked to a psychologist named Elizabeth. Since they'll likely find Lily through her, Monte Carlo goes to her office after booking a therapy session. He then plants a bug in her office so that he'll be able to hear all her conversations from his home. While Monte Carlo and Kalista are waiting to hear something about Lily, Schultzman finds out that Elizabeth used to work with a professor named Dato until he fired her. Schultzman immediately leaves to interrogate Dato, and he tells her that his lab focuses on studying and understanding how people got superpowers.
Sont venus nous demander de l'aide. Leur fils avait développé.
He adds that Elizabeth worked more on the mental aspect of the research, and while they were together, the parents of a 10-year-old boy asked for their help to save their son because he had a socio-pathological disorder that was caused by his powers. Dato mentions that the boy's powers allowed him to do a form of hypnosis to enable him to deprive people of their free will. He adds that Elizabeth helped the boy eliminate his powers, but it drove him mad to the extent that he killed his parents a while later. Schultzman is shocked to hear this, and Dato says that after the experiment, he sent Elizabeth away so she could no longer continue her research. Elsewhere, Elizabeth finally calls Naja to ask about Lily, and Monte Carlo hears this. Naja doesn't seem to care about Lily's condition, but Elizabeth begs him to let her go because she has already given him a lot of people in the past. She adds that Lily is just a kid, and he needs to stop what he's doing because it's killing him. Naja says it's her fault, and Elizabeth doesn't argue about it. She also asks if she can at least come over to check on Lily. Naja says she can, and as she leaves her office, Kalista follows her.
Et ça a marché.
After seeing where Naja's lab is located, Kalista heads home to tell Monte Carlo and Schultzman the things she saw. She adds that it's going to be risky to invade the place and save Lily because Naja has a lot of guards, but Monte Carlo thinks they can do it. Kalista says he's not as strong as he used to be, especially since he now has Parkinson's disease. She adds that they need to think carefully about what they want to do. Shortly after, Elizabeth sees that Lily's condition is worsening, and she tells Naja to release her, but he refuses. He also sounds angry and blames her again for what happened to him when he was a child. Elizabeth says she regrets it, but that he needs to stop. Naja still refuses, so Elizabeth asks if she can at least help Lily get better by giving her some new medication. Naja doesn't seem to mind, and he leaves her with the girl. However, Elizabeth calls the police to inform them about Naja's lab. Monte Carlo and the others hear this on the police radio, and Schultzman mentions that they need to do something because the cops won't stand a chance against Naja and his men. Shortly after, she goes to meet Maro to get him to wake up because they could use his help, but he still remains unconscious. A while later, Monte Carlo, Kalista, and Schultzman head over to Naja's lab to take him down and save Lily. Naja notices that there are people around, so he gives his men some pills and tells them to take care of the intruders. As they leave, Naja goes to release Lily so that he can escape from the facility with her. Meanwhile, his men engage in an intense battle against Schultzman and the remaining members of Pack Royal. Even though it's not easy at first, Schultzman and the others knock them down. After the cops arrive, Kalista and Monte Carlo then hand them over to be arrested. As Naja is secretly leaving with Lily, Maro shows up at the facility and lifts a stone with his powers. Naja looks impressed, but he threatens to kill Lily if Maro attacks him. Maro eventually drops the stone, and Naja uses one of the pills and shoots a lightning bolt at the detective. Maro avoids getting hit, and Naja gets tired after launching more attacks on him. As he tells Maro to leave him alone so he can escape, Lily uses her powers to scare him, and he walks right into Moreau's trap. After Moreau knocks him down, Schultzman shows up and saves Lily. Naja doesn't back down, and as he tries to go after them, Moreau runs toward him and flies into the sky with him. Everyone at the scene, including Chairmont, sees this, and as Naja's body can no longer control all the substances he has taken, he explodes in the sky, and Moreau falls back to the ground. While everyone wonders where he is, Moreau finally shows up looking bruised. Schultzman quickly goes to help him, and as they both look happy to be alive, they see Chairmont looking at them strangely because he didn't know that his detective had superpowers. He eventually leaves the scene with his men, and Monte Carlo and Kalista also help Moreau. The next day, Chairmont scolds Schultzman for going on an unsanctioned mission. He also says he can't let Moreau continue as an officer because it's against regulations to have powers as a cop. As Schultzman tries to defend him, Chairmont says he'll be reassigning her to another position. She looks sad about this, but as Chairmont says he wants her to be the new liaison officer for Pack Royal, she looks happy and thanks him. Meanwhile, Moreau checks on Lily to be sure she's fine before he heads over to Monte Carlo's house, which is where Kalista is also now staying.
Alors, c'est cool la retraite? Tranquille à la maison.
Shortly after, Schultzman comes in and gives Moreau a mask that she wants him to wear as a hero named Titan. She also tells him about her new position, and he looks happy for her. After he then accepts the mask, he flies into the sky and looks ready to become a superhero alongside Monte Carlo and Kalista. Moreau spent a couple of years blaming himself for the death of Giga Man, and it even made him give up on using his powers again. However, he changed his mind at a crucial moment and saved not only Schultzman, but also Giga Man's daughter. In doing so, he realized that his powers were not a curse, but a gift meant to protect others. He also learned that holding on to guilt will only hold you back, and that true redemption comes from using your abilities to help people and make a difference in the world.